Released in 1985 by The Edge and originally created by Charles Bystram before being ported to the Commodore 64 by Trevor Innes, Brian Bloodaxe arrived wrapped in Monty Python fanfare and mysterious premises of something called primary imbalance at a time when platform adventures were multiplying faster than humans. I too was victim to this purchase, spending a week's worth of valuable pocket money after becoming fascinated with that artwork on the box itself. I was bitterly disappointed when I got this one home and fired it up on my Commodore 64. But what's this? A sort of fake loading screen? Was this a little psychological warm-up designed to make sure my nerves were fully engaged before anything had actually loaded? Oh yes, then the Liberty Bell theme erupted from my TV speaker, with all the restraint of a brass band trapped in a cupboard. Then suddenly, there was Brian, shuffling onto the screen, looking eager, confused, and already slightly overwhelmed by the adventure ahead of him. Visually, Brian Bloodaxe was always a bit mental. The sprites all seemed to flicker constantly. The choice of colours used for the characters was always a bit bizarre, and the animation was often limited to a couple of determined frames doing their absolute best. Enemies appear, vanish and reappear with such enthusiasm that you sometimes wonder if they are commuting in from another dimension. It all gives the impression of a game that is struggling technically to even run on the screen, emotionally stressed and only just holding itself together. A bit like myself doing this video, remembering the horrors of those days back in 1985. And yet, behind that unstable exterior sits a game with enormous ambition. There are over 100 screens, each pretending to represent a location in Britain, usually via a pun that makes you groan before you realise you are now standing on a giant pool table while being chased by murderous snooker balls. Every area is its own little puzzle, and simply surviving is rarely enough. You are expected to think, experiment, fail, reload, and repeat until something finally clicks. But it won't. Objects are scattered everywhere, and your little character Brian can carry 3 at a time, which initially feels generous, until you discover that every object seems to have a future appointment somewhere else. A triangle can hold back snooker balls. A random hazard can become a stepping stone. A duck can function as public transport if you walk fast enough. A shark might be safer than the water beneath it. Somewhere along the way you stop questioning any of this, and simply accept that this is how Britain worked in 1985. This is where primary imbalance makes its grand appearance, proudly undefined and quietly menacing. Sometimes water kills you instantly. Sometimes you can bounce across it like a possessed skipping stone. Sometimes platforms wait politely. Sometimes they slide away at the precise moment your foot leaves solid ground. Enemies are often safe to stand on and lethal to touch. You can headbutt some with your helmet, stick yourself to ceilings in tight corners, dig through floors if you found the right tool 3 screens ago, and occasionally feel as though the game is conducting experiments on you. Back in the day, this unpredictability was either thrilling or deeply personal, depending on how recently you had lost a life. You would sit, staring at a single screen, convinced there had to be a solution, pacing around the room muttering theories, testing them, failing, and then returning to the exact same spot with slightly less hope and slightly more stubbornness. The controls certainly did their part to keep things interesting, and by interesting I mean quietly antagonistic. Brian never quite runs, never quite walks, and never fully agrees with what your hands are asking him to do. He drifts, hesitates, overcommits, and occasionally launches himself into space with the confidence of someone who has wildly misunderstood the situation. Jumps seem to be even more frustrating than they were in Manic Miner. Missed by a pixel, and Brian doesn't fall heroically. He simply plummets, usually into water, spikes, or something that looks harmless but absolutely is not. Then there is the sound, and obviously the Liberty Bell tune starts out amusing and upbeat, becomes impressive, and eventually embeds itself into your brain like a tiny brass-powered parasite. But after about 3 minutes of it, it grinds on you. In fact, let's get rid of it. That's better. The in-game effects are serviceable but never inspiring, and combined with the visuals they create an atmosphere that is less heroic Viking quest and more late-night electrical malfunction. I mean, what's going on here? critics back in the day pretty much lambasted Brian Bloodaxe, focusing on the flickering, the awkward controls, and the feeling that the Commodore 64 was being underused. But as you'll see from watching this, it does try to be clever with the puzzles, but it's also careless in equal measure. It contains thoughtful design and baffling shortcuts. It wants to be playful and ends up being punishing. It aims for surreal humour and sometimes lands squarely on irritation. Ask players like me who grew up with it though, and many remember it fondly despite everything, primarily for the stupidity of it all. Or maybe due to the fact that they also had parted ways with their precious weekly pocket money due to the allure of the unusual cassette box art. To be honest, at the time, I didn't even understand the objective of the game at all. I wondered, I explored, I treated it like a strange digital playground filled with ducks, sharks, bishops, toilets, flying scissors, lager, and inexplicable dangers. It was something to poke at after school, something that felt endless, even if you never came close to sitting on the throne at the final screen. Brian Bloodaxe on the Commodore 64 is not a great game. It is often ugly, frequently unfair, sometimes exhausting, and rarely elegant. It still flickers proudly, still blasts its tune with absolute certainty, and still stands as living proof that primary imbalance was less a system and more a warning label, politely reminding me that nothing I had just learned was about to remain relevant, yet somehow convincing me, every single time, that this next run would be different. But it never was. Still, get it fired up on your Commodore 64 anyway, and give it a whirl. Thanks for watching guys, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and be sure to let us know what you thought of Brian Bloodaxe in the comments section. As always, your continued support is massively appreciated, so hit that subscribe for more content just like this. Check out the various playlists on the channel for more Commodore titles, and maybe stick around, as there's another one coming up right now. Hopefully, I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, bye for now.